Alright, today we're doing a rebuild on the old Grob Bandsaw. I've had this saw, I got the saw I think up in Milwaukee at a tool kind of dealer up there called Rimco, I think it was. Rimco? Something like that. Robert Evans, I think, Machine Company was the name of the company. So I had this saw when I was in my studio at the Kenilworth building in Milwaukee. It's been a great old saw for me. I first saw these, it's a Grob saw, or Grob, I'm not sure how you say it exactly, but I first saw one of these. Steve Pevnick was a professor that I worked with at UWM, and he had one of these saws in his shop. He does these graphical waterfalls and produces a lot of pieces and parts for those, so really Steve was the first person I saw that had one of these, and they're made in Cedarburg, which is not too far from Milwaukee. The company is still in existence today. They make other equipment and other machinery, but they made a series of really robust saws, and they also made band filers, and I have been really pleased with this machine. It's really sturdy built. Everything's made out of real thick gauge steel on it, and the only thing I did to it when I first got it was I put some new tires on the wheels, which honestly it probably should be replaced now. But that was one of the first things I did to it. Just did some stretch on, because to have them relined is pretty expensive, so I just did some stretch on tires for it, and it's like I said, it's been a great saw for me. When I first got the saw, it's three-phase 1 horsepower motor on it, and so the first thing I did to it, because I didn't have three-phase at the Kenilworth building, even though originally it did have three-phase in that building, I wound up sticking a motor on it that was a 110, I think 1.5 horsepower, 110 volt, 1.5 horsepower motor. And I basically hooked that up and ran it that way for a long time. Well, here lately, I just feel like as I've been working with it, that I could probably prolong the life of my saw blades if I were to get in the habit of changing the belts to the different settings like I should. And so and I'll show you this. It's kind of cool. So let me show you that right now. So there is this really cool feature on this where it lists different materials and what you can cut with those materials, and so or what speeds you should cut those materials at. I mean, and so it'll give you listings, let you select the width of the blade, and then it's got settings for all sorts of things, right? Like I always show this to people. It's got settings for cutting, asbestos and these things you shouldn't be cutting probably, and because it's an old saw, and so I just think it's really cool. So anyway, so I had decided that instead of changing the belt settings all the time, that I would switch this over to a VFD. Originally it had this big switch mechanism. You can kind of see that's a big switch mechanism that it had, and this had a big switch plate. It was really cool, actually. It's got a nice definitive like chunk right when you start it, and it's super cool. It had extra things on the back of it for receptacles and breakers. I had another big breaker box I took off of it. Just did that now. I'd kept that on for all these years. And then it also has a blade welder, which is not three-phase. So, and it was unhooked. It had been unhooked all this time, so I had not used it. I'd used some blade welders in the past that we had in the sculpture department at UWM to weld blades in the past. And then the saw also has this little cool pulley-driven air pump, little compressor actually, and that compressor blows air out through this hose. It's actually hooked up to the same motor pulleys, and it blows air out. There's supposed to be a little nozzle here, a little brass nozzle or something, and that blows air out, so it blows away the chips as you cut. And so the blade welder sits in here, and you're able to cut a blade, weld a blade. If you want to cut the center out of a circle or out of a sheet, like a circle out of a sheet or something, you could essentially drill a hole in the center of it, cut your blade, thread it through, re-weld it on the welder right next to the machine, and then come back and reattach it to the bandsaw, and then cut it out, and then cut your blade again when you're done cutting it out, and then remove it. And that way you don't have to worry about cutting to the inside and having to mess with that. It also it's kind of cool. It has a counterweight system, so you can put there's a drive mechanism. This slides out. It's a little tight right now. So get this to wedge out. So there's a drive mechanism where if you want to automate this, need to clean that out. Jeez, it's normally never that tight. If you want to automate a feed system, there's a drive that you can put in here instead that has pegs, and so this basically lets you feed something in, and this gear rack hooks up to a drive on the machine, and then basically there are these counterweights that you press on this, and then a lot of people might think this is a brake. It's not a brake. A lot of saws have brakes on them, and this instead has a mechanism here. You can see it on the side, and so this is a counterweight. So when you push down on the pedal, and then this brings that feed, and it's hooked up to a pulley that pulls your drive through. So pretty cool. I mean, system that they had. I think later on they did a hydraulic feed or something like that. So this is the kind of the guts of the machine. So it's real simple. It's all pulleys. It's not like a dual. I think a duals have like a gearbox on it for the reduction. This one does not. It's a robust system. A lot of people say the duals, better. It probably is a better machine. But in terms of like robustness and just foolproof kind of design, this machine is really top notch. So basically, going back to what I was saying earlier, I'm going to hook up a VFD. This is an older VFD that I have, and basically it had a box, a switch box that was welded in place. This slid up from underneath inside. And then I was able to basically grind those welds, pop this box out, and then I needed to make a deeper box because my VFD, for it to sit in here, it would have stuck out really far. And so I had plenty of room in behind here that I could basically build a deeper box to place a VFD. And then what I can do is wire this up so that all I'm dealing with is there's a front plate on the front that covers this up, and then this will be where all my controls are at, so that I can actually have variable speed now. So instead of doing belt changes, I'll be able to just like calibrate here. I'll have my on and off switch on that keypad, and it should be a much cleaner system. And then I'll run the old stock motor instead of this. This was the motor I was running on it. And now I'll go back to, my stock motor that was a 3-phase, and we'll just run it. So I should be able to put it in the middle position on the sheave that it has, and I can put it on the middle position and then just basically work with my variable speed on my VFD to be able to convert or to be able to change speed between what I'm doing. So right now I'm just in the phase of this is kind of my mock-up VFD. This is an old one I've had for a long time, and like I said, basically I'll get this wired up today, and then I can mess with it and have a screw. This unscrews easily. There's a bolt that bolts in right here, and there's a bolt that bolts in down here, and then like I said, we'll just make a nice plate that goes back in the stock location. I'll put the welder back in its spot. We'll get it hooked up and wired, and then we're pretty much good to go to be able to to run the machine and get it back up and running. Another cool thing I'll show you while we're here. This is a little catch tray, so this actually catches, and you can pull this whole thing out. And this is where all you can see there's tons of dust from, or swarf, or whatever to call it, right? From cutting, and then it just sits back in there, like so. So kind of cool system. It's got a little brush to brush off your tires. I definitely need to get new tires for that. Did not realize it was that worn. So yeah, I'm just doing basically a kind of a mechanical upgrade and electrical upgrade on the old Grob, and getting it back up into good condition. It's been running great. I honestly wouldn't have had to have done this, but I just thought I'm getting new blades made locally. Actually, come to find out, there's a guy locally that makes bandsaw blades. I'll put the link down in the description below. But he's a local guy that makes bandsaw blades, welds them up. He's got a whole variety of different types of blades that he can make. So any of you woodworkers out there, he has super affordable bandsaw blades. He's got a website, but it's outdated. So I would just recommend calling him. So I'll put his information and number. I went to his website, and I think he was listing blades for, let's see, I use usually a stirrup blade that I get from McMaster-Carr for this. It's about 144 inch or 145 inch blade that you can put on this. And I think those blades run me about $95 a piece. So, they're expensive, but they last a long time. And I looked at his bimetal blades that he sells, and they were going to run about, let's see, they were going to be, I think on the website I had it priced out, and it was like, I couldn't believe it was too good to be true. I think it was maybe $35 or something like that for a bandsaw blade. Come to find out that the website's outdated, but when I called him and talked to him, I think it was about $52, $53 for a bimetal bandsaw blade, and he uses Linux as the blade material that he uses to weld up. He told me those prices, that he can't really afford to do those prices later on when he's out of the material he's out of, because he buys stock bandsaw blade material, or he has in the past, and of course he's bought it long enough ago that it's cheaper for him to make blades than most people, because he's using a lot of his stock that he has already in his company. So anyway. When I called and talked to him, though, he told me, he makes, if you're not buying bimetal's more expensive, but if you're buying the other blades that he makes for woodworkers and things like that, I think he priced me a blade for cutting aluminum, which would be kind of similar to a wood blade, and I think it was going to be like $30 for that one, I think. And so, and I'll just add that he, with everything that's going on right now, he really could use the business. He's concerned. He's an older fellow, really nice guy, and I wound up talking to him on the phone for probably, I'd say, a good hour. He told me about his history and working for some different companies doing machine tool cutting technology and things like that. So it seems very knowledgeable, super nice guy to deal with, and seems like he really knows his stuff. So I'll put his info in the description below, and I know he would love the business. If anybody's looking to have blades made up for metal or wood cutting, either one, I would highly recommend chatting with him on the phone. Unfortunately, he doesn't have a website. He said he used to do a lot of business with craft artists that are doing big craft shows, especially woodworkers, it sounds like. And he said with all the shows being shut down for the season, it's really put a damper on his business, because he had a lot of customers that that's what they do. So anyway, if you are looking to get some tools or some blades made, check him out for sure, and help the guy out. I felt really good after I got off the phone with him to be able to buy 3 new blades for this thing. And I was just thinking, with getting these again with the upgrades that I'm doing on the saw, that this would help those blades last longer if I'm changing the speed. But when I'm cutting different materials, I really should be doing that. And the variable speed on the VFD seems like the right way to go. So anyway, hopefully that you guys kind of got a sense of what I'm doing with the conversion and how I'm doing that, and trying not to mess up the saw too much, so that I always hate cutting holes and things, and I don't know, just changing the way that the machine used to be. So maybe it's the sentimental nature in me, but just kind of hate to mess up the way these old machines were made. So trying to retrofit this a little bit so it's kind of tucked in and hidden, and but still gets the job done. So hopefully you enjoyed that. I'll try to get this wrapped up, and then I'll shoot another little video once we get it tuned up and show it to you. Okay. All right, been a busy day today. I was working on the saw, warmed up quite a bit today. And we'll just show you what I got done. So made this plate that the VFD sits around the VFD, got that all mounted in, got everything hooked up. So we're good to go, we're running. Patched up my plates, I'll start to cut those. Use a slitting saw in the Bridgeport, probably slit those. And I can finish those up. I just came in and weld those up, and I'm just grinding those down. I'll still have to surface grind those, but basically, yeah, I got everything except for the welder. Got everything cleaned up back here in the back. So I didn't hook up the air pump yet because I got to rebuild it, but I got all my belts run. We're in the middle position on everything, so it works pretty well now. It's motor runs real smooth with the VFD. So basically, we're just able to hit start. And as you see, this is like, I can slow this way down. Maybe hard to see here. And then, we can speed this up just by turning the dial. I haven't adjusted my guides yet because I'm getting my new blades, so I haven't adjusted those. This turns out this has dual guides on it, so and you hit stop, and then it actually breaks it pretty quickly because you can build that into the VFD. So, but yeah, it's got dual guides on it. I went through, sorted through all my extra stuff in the drawer, so we got a ton of extra guides for the dual guides in there. So yeah, we're back up and running. Probably I'll have to come in at some point, and maybe do some etching on this brass plate. I thought I'd make it match the other plates, so maybe I'll come in and do the logo, or the Grob logo, and you can see you got the little logo down there too. So anyway, yeah, it feels good to have this job done. Now it's all tuned up. Once I get my new blades on Monday, we'll be back in business. So just thought I'd share that. Hope you enjoyed that. And hopefully get back on the FJ project here soon, now that school's out, and have some updates on that. So
that we'll be sharing with you. So thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you're not, and leave any comments below. Thanks a lot.